Hey, how are
Hey,
you?
how are you?
Good. Sorry if I wasn't able to find you initially, but I'm glad we got connected.
Yeah, absolutely.
We were just talking about this the shampoo with the salicylic acid and sodium hypochlorite, and tell me what is the difference between this shampoo and the gentle shampoo that is available?
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you for having me on.
Thanks for being here, by the way. Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, likewise. Same to you. The clean shampoo, the darker orange, has salicylic acid at about 0.5, so very low level. And the gentle shampoo does not have the salicylic acid, which is the main difference. So they both have glycerin, they both have sodium hypochlorite, so one with sal acid, one without.
Great. Well, anyway, so thank you. We were kind of in the middle of that, so I skipped the niceties, but it's great to have you with us. Thank you so much for joining me today. How are things down where you are? You're in Dallas, right?
Yeah, we're in Dallas. Things are fine, and the weather's been lovely, and everybody's being careful with the surge in coronavirus. So, but we're pretty much an online business, and our business is just fine. Yeah.
You know, it's such a different style of practice. I know that you're a cardiac surgeon, right?
And interventional cardiologist.
And things are so different in practice now. Do you hear much from your colleagues about how life is like in the hospital these days?
Yeah, it's stressful, and when COVID was really very prominent in April, the number of elective cases really went down. So cardiologists, cardiac surgeons were doing less, but they still had to go to the hospital. So their families were at risk, they were under duress, but their volumes were dramatically down. And then now the volumes have picked up, but they're not really sure, what's going to happen. And some of the elective cases in certain hospitals may be limited to take care of the COVID patients.
It's really a struggle. I will tell you, in my clinical practice for dermatology, what we're finding is that we're seeing fewer patients, but taking quite a bit more time to see those fewer patients. So some of the things that we do, which are absolutely entirely necessary, like making sure that people don't congregate in the waiting room, and making sure that people are able to come into a room that's been fully cleaned before they come into it, and making sure that when they're discharged, that we don't have too many people waiting to be discharged. It's just a logistical challenge. But on top of that, you end up having the question of, if somebody comes in and are they safe? And so we've had several patients who've had to cancel appointments, and rightfully so. And we appreciate it because they've been exposed to COVID, or they had a near miss, or they're under quarantine. It's just quite a challenge.
Yeah. You've got to put a lot of resources in it to really take care of fewer patients. And then when the patients come in, you've got to really be attentive, because they probably are sicker. Something's bothering them, and you don't really want to have them going back and forth. So you may have a more intensive visit, doing more testing. And so, but, hopefully in the next few months, we'll be around the corner.
I hope so. I don't want to get away from the main subject, which is discussing this amazing product that you and I both love. And I'm not sure who of us loves it even more. I love it so much, I'm going to tell you. But I do think that there's a little bit to be discussed about where we're going to end up in the pandemic, and when we will finish the pandemic. So for those of you who are joining today, it's Friday, November 20th. And it looks like Pfizer is going for their emergency use authorization today, which is extraordinarily exciting, with a vaccine that has a 95% efficacy, which is phenomenal, is unheard of for a vaccine. So we are in a stage where, theoretically, mid-December, they could start rolling out vaccines. So it's kind of exciting because first dose maybe by end of December, second dose by end of January, and 28 days later after the second dose, you theoretically are safe. So somewhere in February.
Right. Yeah, it's very exciting. I think the high-risk patients will end up getting it. The Pfizer vaccine, or the BNTX, the German partner, their biggest limitation, I think, is transportation at minus 70 degrees to store it at that, whereas the Moderna virus, which also is a vaccine, which also is a RNA vaccine, their storage is a little easier at 40 degrees, so like normal refrigeration.
Right.
And I think J&J will be right around the corner. I think they'll report data around January. I think they have a huge study. I know they were enrolling 60,000 patients, and I think they've expanded that.
It's a big lift to get that many people through a study, crunch the data, make sure that it's safe, and so that is a huge study. But the good news is that as more and more of these vaccines come available, you'll have more opportunities because, for example, Pfizer may have 25 million doses available by end of year, but, they also want to make sure that those doses are available for the second dose. You can't just have somebody hang out there and get dose 1 and then say, gee, I'm so sorry, we didn't have dose 2, so you're not going to get it at the proper time, because all these are timed 100% to be 1 month later you get your second vaccination. And, if you don't do it, theoretically, you might not get the same 95% efficacy.
Right. Yeah, I know of 4 people that have enrolled in the study. One in the, actually all 4 in the J&J study. And they're all hoping that when they're in the study that they kind of feel sick the next day. That means they got the real thing, not the placebo. So
we have a who's he and his wife were enrolled in I believe it was the Moderna one, and one of them felt sick the next day, so they knew they got it. The other one, nothing. So they were kind of like, oh, bummer. One of us may have gotten, one of us may have not gotten it. But
yeah,
it's interesting. I'm so appreciative for those people who did enroll in those studies. That took a lot of guts, and it wasn't assured that these would be as amazing as it turned out to be. So kudos to them. Yeah. Actually, a very topical question from Monster Mashley. Does CLN work on the coronavirus?
Yeah, actually it does. We did 2 different, we went to 2 different labs, and the clean body wash, the gel, the core product, kills the virus on contact within 15 seconds, 99.9% of it. So it's good in that regard. And, I use it as a leave-on myself and then wash it off a little bit later. But it's the body wash that we use, or body wash and sport wash having the same formulation, are the ones that you can use that way.
That's great. So tell me how long you leave it on for.
This is completely off label. I leave it on for 20, 30, 40 minutes, an hour. And then, for instance, if you're in the car, you can leave a little bit on. It goes on very nicely. It's not greasy or sticky. And when you get to a sink an hour or 2 later, you can wash it off. Right. So that way you don't even have to have soap available to you. And because once you add water, this thing suds off as well. So that's a nice way to use it.
And that's one of the things that I find particularly good about this product. And do you call it clean or do you call it CLN? Because I've always called it CLN, but maybe I should be calling it clean now.
You can call it either. I call it clean, but most people call it CLN because it just reads easier. We initially had intended to call it, clean, but it doesn't really matter. Whatever you want.
It's a great product, but so the one thing that we found with it is that it really isn't irritating. Initially, when I started to carry this, must have been, 5 years ago or so, maybe 6 years ago. The main indication was for patients with eczema or dryness or psoriasis. And, frankly, I had my doubts. I wondered whether it was going to be a good match for people with eczema and dry skin, because clearly their barrier was damaged, and so they had cracks and fissures. And this is the type of environment you get with a person with these things. But honestly, it was remarkable how well they did with it.
Yeah, we designed it that way. From the beginning, we had certain criteria that it should be really non-irritating, very gentle. And we did our first studies on children. We did two studies, one in Dallas and then one in Houston and Chicago. It was in children with eczema with staph colonization. They tolerated it really quite well. And we also brought water back into dermatology, to really take advantage of lukewarm water in the shower. And as you know, bleach itself has a lot of anti-inflammatory properties. It reduces NF-κB, and so plus the concentrations are pretty low, and a little bit of the product goes a long way. So adding the water dilutes it, suds it up more, and then the nice thing is you just wash everything off and you're without the product, for many hours.
Such a great thing to be able to do that, because some forms of bleach, if you're at the sink and you're using the typical very concentrated bleach, they can be irritating, but you've managed to make a recipe, a formulation that is particularly soothing, actually.
Bleach is a very interesting compound. In the bottle of Clorox, it's a poison. When you dilute it 100-fold, it's a surface cleanser, but it's still irritating to the skin. If you dilute it 1,000-fold, which is bleach baths and what we've done, then actually it's anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial. It doesn't impact the macrophages during healing. And so it has a really nice property at a very low concentration. But if you double and quadruple the concentration, then it becomes irritating to the skin.
And keep in mind, that is something that we really don't talk enough about. But one of the reasons that this product is so loved by dermatologists in particular is that for years we have been asking our patients to do bleach baths. So bleach baths are something that, if in the 1960s to 1990s, you were hospitalized for certain skin conditions like severe eczema or severe psoriasis. And back in the day, that's what they did. They didn't really have great treatments for it. They didn't even have steroids and topical steroids until like the late 50s, I think. And so all the mainstays of treatment were topical remedies that were awful. They were just absolutely incomprehensibly hard to use. So people would actually go into the hospital. If you had really, really bad psoriasis or really, really bad eczema, you'd be trucked into the hospital. You'd stay there for 3-4 weeks for psoriasis. They'd put on tar onto you. They'd put you under lights. They would do all sorts of weird things. But one of the things they did was bleach baths. So bleach baths, which you would put in like a cup of bleach into a whole tub full of water, you would actually sit and soak in it, and it was great. But trying to take that concept that was very well done in a hospital where nurses were expertly measuring it out, they were preparing the bath for you. They were putting you in it and timing it, and you had nothing else better to do than sit in a bath. You were in a hospital, for goodness sake. All that you were able to do was like either sit there and eat bad food or go into a bath or whatever. So now we dermatologists told our patients, like, can you please do a bleach bath? Never happened. I had so many patients with eczema. I said, hey, there's this great thing, bleach bath. Never happened. How did you do it? No, we really didn't have time. So so simple. You can just simply take this product and put it on you and wash with it, and you get the bleach bath taken to you. So it's really quite remarkable.
Well, it started, I'm a cardiologist and I suffered a skin infection. I had immersive cellulitis and was treated by Clay, a friend Clay, and he gave me antibiotics and topically and orally and recommended Hibiclens. I couldn't tolerate that. Then I took bleach baths for several months, 2 to 3 months. So I was using that 2 to 3 times a week myself. And I found that cumbersome and then started studying and seeing if we could make something easier. I mean, that's the beauty of living in America. And if there's a problem, you try to solve it. And the resources are, around us to be able to develop that. And then I have experts, like you and many other dermatologists that really helped us bring it into the field. We brought in through pediatrics to show safety, that it's gentle enough on a baby 6 months old. And we developed a lot more confidence. When we first started out, we had really tiny bottles. Now we have bigger bottles. We thought, you could probably use it 2 to 3 times a week. But then as time went on, people wanted to use it more. They're using once or twice a day. And then we added more products. And, the confidence really, really expanded. And then the pediatric dermatologists were really influential in, helping us move this thing along. And they really wanted it because they recommend bleach baths often. A bleach bath is anti-inflammatory. It's antimicrobial. It's a little bit drying, but it's also anti-aging, in the lab. And so people really like it. But when I did my own investigation, 95% of people wouldn't take it. And I learned a lot about eczema from the mothers who were in the clinical trials. And they would tell me, oh, yeah, we did this, or it was scary, and we didn't want to do that. You have another child in your arm, you're trying to give a bleach bath to a child, it's very cumbersome. And it's really just scary for them.
Absolutely. It's a very scary.
Yeah, it's very scary for the patient, for the mom especially. So, and then as time went on, before we put the product out, we did repeat insult patch testing on 50 subjects. So it was non-irritating, non-sensitizing. We don't do any animal testing, but we ran tests on epiocular tissue, so it's not damaging the eyes. It'll sting the eye, but it won't damage it. And the beauty in the shower is that you just, get in the shower and you wash it all off, and you're done with it. You don't have any residual product on your skin, and then you can put steroids or whatever else you would recommend, or moisturize, etc.
Well, many people don't realize this, but before as a dermatologist, I was a board-certified pediatrician. So I was trained in Texas, in your neck of the woods, at Baylor College of Medicine. And I finished my medical school, then went into pediatrics, did a 3-year residency, got board certified and stayed board certified actually until 2014 in pediatrics. And finally just said, okay, there's no way I'm going to ever go back to be a pediatrician. I'm a dermatologist. And, I felt bad giving it up, but I didn't really love the thought of going and taking the test, the recertification again every 7 years. So still am board certified dermatologist, but let that pediatrics go. But having said that, I have this love of pediatric dermatology because of that background in pediatrics. And, we saw so many patients back when I was a pediatrician who had terrible, terrible eczema. And the answer is, in many cases, the milieu that is on the skin. So it's not, people think that it's just, put a steroid on it and it'll get better. But the reality is that many of the patients that have eczema have what we call a microbiome, which is in a way to explain it to people who might not be familiar with it. It's just the types of bacteria that are normally on the skin are kind of off kilter. Like we have a ton of bacteria on our skin. Just like in your mouth, there's a phenomenal amount of bacteria in your mouth. That's why if you are bit by a human or a dog, it's bad because there's a lot of bacteria in there. Same thing on your skin. And there's good bacteria and there's bad bacteria. So CLN takes the bacteria that are the bad bacteria, takes them off, leaves you with the good bacteria that are normally serving a purpose, but it doesn't take it to the point where it messes it up so that you don't have any bacteria, because frankly, we do want to have a normal microbiome on our skin, because that helps us in so many different ways.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's very common in a lot of other dermatologic conditions. In eczema, as you guys have taught me, it's staph. You know, the staph levels actually go up a day before the flare, and they go down one day before the flare goes away. I mean, there have been some very nice, elegant studies. And in our second study, we saw a downtrend in, you know, the staph bacteria went from 100% colonization to about 64%. And steroid usage, actually, once your eczema gets better, the steroid usage goes down, antibiotic usage goes down. And by the way, this is the week for antimicrobials, the WHO week about antibiotics and antimicrobials. And so in some way, we feel good that we're contributing to, you know, society by helping reduce the need for antibiotics. As you know, a lot of the eczema patients with staph colonization, impetigo, they go on antibiotics, and because people know that staph is driving that, and hopefully we can give a product that will reduce the need for antibiotics. Now, the antibiotics are absolutely needed. Like in my case with cellulitis or deeper tissue infection, you know, there's a need for an oral antimicrobial, and you can comment more on that. I don't want to say completely get away from antibiotics, but I think we may be using it a little too much.
Well, absolutely. That's a really great point. I just love how much science you've been able to put behind this. But I will say that antibiotics are great, and they're also terrible. So we don't want to use antibiotics and, again, take away that normal and wonderful gamish, that group of bacterial normal bacteria that's on your skin, and mess that up. It's really a benefit if you take somebody and take every bacterial infection off their body. There's no benefit there, because your skin has developed over millennia to have this kind of yin and yang. The bacteria inhabit our body. There are other organisms that are on top of our body, and if you take them off, the skin isn't going to function optimally.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you talked about millennia. If you look at the world history, the history of mankind, viruses and bacteria moved on. If you put it in a 12-month calendar, viruses and bacteria were on Earth around March, and human beings showed up around November or December. So they've been here for a long time. And I think we're here on Earth for the benefit of the microbes. I mean, you know, we think it's for us, but actually we're here for them. And we have, 10 to 100 times more microbes in our body than human cells. We just have to learn how to, use them properly. And when you use antibiotics, there are other problems that come out, bacterial, you have GI issues, overgrowth of, other problems. So you may treat the acne, but then they get back acne with Pittosporum folliculitis. And, these are all the things that, my derm colleagues have taught me. And, but, when you need an antibiotic, you really need it. And unfortunately, we're running out of antibiotics because there's so much resistance out there.
Right. Well, what I normally do, if I have a person that comes in to my office, very first time they have severe eczema or severe psoriasis, I usually will take a bacterial culture. And if that bacterial culture reveals that they have a bona fide infection, we'll put them onto treatment for a period of time, whether it's a month or so. A low dose, though, not a high dose. I don't aim to, go with an elephant gun for shooting a mouse. I'm just aiming to drive down the population of bacteria a little bit to where it's more manageable. And it's amazing how well many of these patients will clear up. But at the same time, we're using a topical steroid, and that topical steroid can be beneficial. But I will tell you that without the CLN, and we put we ask everybody who has eczema, psoriasis to consider CLN. Obviously, it's not something they can get as a prescription, so they have to purchase it, but it's relatively reasonable. I mean, as you know, CLN body wash, an 8-ounce CLN body wash is all of $39, and it lasts forever. So it's a very easy and affordable thing because it lasts that very long. And it's an amazing benefit to their program. So we have integrated the CLN line with so many of these patients, and they love it, and they do better with it, and they come back, and it's easy on lovelyskin.com. They can purchase it and get off ship or something for it. So if they want to get it, I wanted to also just mention. I know that this thing is new. It has this come out yet? I know that there's some.
The hand wash, that has that's out and available, and that has glycerin and sodium hypochlorite. So it's a lubricious. It's a non-gel product. It's very easy to use. It's just easier on the skin with the glycerin being there, and then you can add your own moisturizer. And we've had really good feedback from people who develop hand eczema, and you could maybe comment on that. That's probably the incidence of that's really increased in your practice, I imagine. Or
oh yes, especially with COVID. I mean, there are so many people who are washing their hands appropriately, so including yours truly. We wash our hands so much now, and it's great. I think it's important. But if you do that enough, you're going to end up with hand eczema. Yeah. And almost think if you see a doctor whose hands are absolutely smooth and not damaged, you wonder how often they're washing their hands.
Yeah.
You kind of want somebody to have hands that are a little bit roughened from washing a little too much.
Yeah.
Now, one other thing that is a unique aspect to this epidemic, this pandemic that we're dealing with, is the use of these Purell or other hand sanitizers, which are just dreadful for the skin. I cannot tell you. Have you noticed that too?
Yes. And, why don't you expand on that? I mean, I think, you're the expert on that.
Yeah, I mean, so as a dermatologist, I have always been somewhat of a doubting Thomas on hand sanitizers and first of all, the efficacy of hand sanitizers as a whole, and secondly, as it relates to the overall health and maintenance and well-being of skin. So I've pretty much discouraged my patients from doing that if they can wash with a normal or hopefully a soap-based product. They should do that. Now, CLN is a perfect opportunity. So many of my patients who work in the hospitals will pick up a bottle of CLN. They'll take it with them to the hospital and make sure that their infection control department is okay with it, which I've never encountered anybody who's had a problem with CLN as an alternative to the either hand sanitizers or soaps that are in the hospital. But, if you do hand sanitizer too much, you're going to suffer from it. So I, generally speaking, do I carry hand sanitizer? Yes, I do. I have hand sanitizer in my car. I have it in my, house in various places where I might not, going outside or something like that. And I always say, if you're in the middle of the Sahara Desert and, your hands are dirty, yes, hand sanitizer, great. On the other hand, if you have a bottle of CLN, 5 feet away in a sink where you can wash with it, do the CLN, go to the sink, don't use the hand sanitizer. And that's the issue that I see all too often, is that people just end up, blindly thinking that this 70% alcohol-based, product is going to help them. And, they put on a smidgen of it, doesn't work, or alternatively, it isn't really up to par. There are many that have been proven to not have the right percentages. So it's not as good as one might think.
Yeah, like you said, it's great in a pinch. It has limitations. Also, kids can drink it, and it's flammable. There were some that were made in Mexico that had methanol in it, and that can cause blindness.
Wow.
So some of those were removed, and a lot of people got into the business, so to speak. So, and it also gives you a false sense of security, because there's really no substitute to washing, just soap and water. This virus is actually very fragile. Almost any soap, 20 seconds of washing will knock it out. It has a membrane, which with surfactants, which soaps have, will knock out that membrane. So the virus has no chance against soaps. And also, we really encourage people to really take a nice shower when they come from crowded areas, and get the whole body clean, because it's not only in your hands; it could be elsewhere in your face.
So when I get in the shower, I always use the CLN over my entire body. Yeah. I start with the scalp and then work downward. And my son, he's a dermatology resident right now at WashU of St. Louis, does that immediately when he gets back from the clinic. So he's seeing people who potentially are a little bit more risk than I am. Then he gets home, he washes with CLN, and he was at Mass General last year and seeing COVID patients, same thing. And, knock on wood, so far he's been healthy and it's been good. But, we are at significant risk in the hospital or in the clinics. But honestly, everybody out there, sadly, is at a little bit more risk unless you're living a very secluded life, which I think is a good thing. If you're able to, wonderful, do it. But if you're not, then, there are these amazing things like CLN available for you. I have to do a shout out to Kachia Miranda, who said, I saw your page and I've not stopped buying the products that I love with you. They are the best fast shipment, best product. I love that the rewards, I could use them quickly. So thank you, Kachia Miranda. You're amazing. We love you too. So thank you so much. And I wanted to give a shout out to your wonderful and amazing wife, Sherry. And thank you so much for being with us, Sherry. I know you are an amazing person, and Sherry and Dr. Oz do such a great job with us. They take such very good care of us. Really, we are blessed to have you in our family of brands.
Yes. Well, likewise, we're very fond of you and Nancy and your whole team. They're so responsive. And
thank you.
Yes. Said, Lovely Skin wants it. I go, give whatever they want.
Absolutely. I'm going to introduce you to one other member of our family. Hang on one second. Yeah. Okay. So this little guy also uses CLN. This is Leo, our pug. So Leo uses CLN on his skin, and we bathe him in it. We use the shampoo for him. He loves it. He is so excited when we give him a bath. So, you're also the treatment of choice for pugs.
Yeah. Well, we actually had done some work on dogs with eczema, and actually Sherry did that study, and it works really, really quite well. And dogs actually have eczema, which is very similar to humans, and probably even more of it because they manifest a lot of their allergic reactions on their skin. So I'm so glad. What's the dog's name again?
Leo.
Leo. All right, great.
Yeah, we
have Leo on our website, Sherry.
He does have a tendency, by the way, towards eczema, and so started using the CLN on him. It got so much better. So yeah. Really, it's not a bad choice for dogs too, and we've encouraged several of my patients who have dogs that are itchy and have that tendency, which pugs tend to have that, to consider the CLN. So
the CLN shampoo would be good with a salicylic acid with the dogs. It does well. It heals the pyoderma, and itching goes down, and skin heals, and very good.
Yeah.
Good job.
I had to include Leo because
Leo's awesome. He made the show.
He's a huge fan. I mean, he just always asks about you guys. So.
Yeah.
Well, I really want to thank you for joining today. I always have such a great time talking with you. And as I said, your team is the absolute best. We are so fortunate. And I also want to reach out, by the way, thank Dr. Clay Cockrell. You met him as one of the people who helped develop this. Dr. Cockrell, who is a dermatologist in Dallas, is also a friend of mine, friend of ours.
Yeah.
President of the American Academy of Dermatology, a real visionary thinker, and has done so much for dermatology. And
he was my dermatologist. He's the one who treated me with my cellulitis, MRSA cellulitis. Yeah,
he's the best. So we'll take it easy. I really want you to have a wonderful, wonderful holiday. Regards to everybody there, and we hope to get together and do one of these when we don't have to talk about COVID, when COVID is just a memory in our past.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Joel. Say hi to Nancy, and we really appreciate you and your family and your company. So have safe holidays.
You too. Thank you so much, guys. Have a great holidays, everybody.